Did y'all know on a daily basis our computers and computer networks are attacked on an everyday basis? Attackers have so many channels they can use to launch an attack. And there's ways that we can counter them, and also they can cause a lot of damage, not only on the financial level, but also on the computers as well. Let's go through the channels that attackers use. They use things like viruses, worms, BIOS, which stands for Basic Input-Output System, USB devices, and there's also ways to classify these attackers. Let's first define the definitions of viruses and worms. A virus is a program that attaches itself to a document or program and spreads from computer to computer, causing damage. And the author, I took the book from Mark Ciampa. He has divided viruses like things like resident virus, which affects RAM, a boot virus, which affects the booting process, and also a macro virus, which also is used by using a form of a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or Visual Basic to write program code. On the other hand, worms, they do not require attachment, but they just go through a computer system with a program without having nothing attached to it. Let's move into BIOS. BIOS, as I said earlier, stands for Basic Input-Output System. It contains the codes needed necessary to keep your computer from running. Nowadays, BIOS can be programmed so they can infect it with a virus, or the user can modify changes to BIOS when it comes to booting the computer. And also, the one thing, if the BIOS gets hit by a virus, it can kill the chip, meaning that, okay, I'm going to have to get another chip here. And also, it's a very crucial part of the computer booting process. Without your computer is dead as Fred. Another way attackers can channel attacks is by the method of USB devices, which is a popular method of transferring files. We'll say, for example, my friend Erica gives me this flash drive, and I open it, and all of a sudden I click on a file, and oops, my computer's been affected because I failed to scan it for viruses because I had no idea her flash drive had a virus on it, so it's now affected on my computer. And then from my computer, maybe it can spread to her computer or his computer. But these are used to implant viruses as well as different forms of malicious software. And the author from the IT security book, Mark Ciampa, he breaks down attackers into 5 different categories: hackers, script kiddies, spies, employees, and cyber criminals. Let's talk about the hackers. A hacker is someone who illegally accesses a computer network. They claim that all they're trying to do is find any redundancy or any vulnerabilities within the network. And they also claim that they can fix these vulnerabilities or redundancies found within security of a computer network. Script kiddies. These guys are the ones who basically have no computer skills. But they use files from the internet, like automated hacking software, they can download and infect somebody else's computer or network by using scripting files and then sending them all about. Next, we have spies. These people are hired to break into a computer network. They're like hackers, but they're hired to break into the system. They only target a certain computer that's on the network, and they steal sensitive information, and they also possess great computer skills. Employees. They tend to retaliate on computers that belong to the company. In case if something doesn't go their way, they might take it on somebody's computer, like maybe implanting a virus or modifying privileges or go in unauthorized areas of the network. But they also claim that they want to find the weaknesses, just like hackers, when it comes to finding the holes in the security, like maybe leaving a port open or turning off a firewall, things like that. And they also have a tendency to be blackmailed by competitors to give away sensitive information from the company. We've got cyber criminals. These guys are the ones who causes the majority of computer attacks. They have the tendency of stealing your identity as well as commit financial fraud. It has happened to me last year whenever I opened up my bank account statement and noticed that there were some transactions that took place in California. And I was like, I was wondering where they came from. And I was looking at it, it's like several of them came from California, and I'm like, I am not from California. So my bank was able to clear up and prove that I didn't make those transactions, so therefore I was able to get my money back. So it could happen to any of y'all. Let's now move into the countering of these attacks. And these things include managing your operating system, installing updates and patches from your OS, and also establish a policy to implement for network security. Design the network plays a crucial role in securing the network firewalls and also security application software. Let's move into OS management. Operating systems offer patches like Windows, like say every now and then your computer will pop up and tell you that you want to install some updates. A service pack is another form of updates that contains a comprehensive package that includes all security updates as well as additional features to go with your operating system. And these are included like Linux, Unix, as well as Macintosh and Microsoft Windows. And you should have it set to where the OS will automatically detect the updates and install them automatically. And they'll ask you every now and then to reset your computer to do so. Let's move into establishing a security policy. You have what they call security policy, configuration line, security template, and deployment. Let's move into, okay, hold on. Let me talk more about the security policy here. A security policy is a set of guidelines that a network administrator can use to determine what settings to use and how to go about them when it comes to installing the network. Okay, the configuration baseline defines the settings that the organization will use for each of their computer operating systems they manage, like Linux, Unix, Windows, Macintosh, etc. A security template is a method to define the configuration baseline, and the deployment is where you actually implement your plan for your network for security. Now let's talk about designing a secure network. Every computer that is connected to the internet is assigned an IP address, which can be, you might see something like maybe 192.168.1.1. You see, that tells you your address of your computer. This is actually Internet Protocol version 4, but there's another IP address for version called IPv6, which uses hexadecimal notation, which is base 16. And TCP/IP introduced subnetting, which is a method used to break down a computer network. TCP/IP stands for Transmission Control Protocol, and IP stands for Internet Protocol. And the subnetting breaks your network into 3 parts. And also, one thing that's great about subnetting, it allows the network administrator to hide the layout so the attacker would not know exactly where to target, because he has it so complex to where they cannot be able to tap into the computer. Firewalls. These are very important. Firewalls can be at hardware or software level. At the hardware level, it's basically connected to a router before any traffic comes in and out to the internet. When a packet is delivered, a packet is identified as a unit that measures data. And firewalls can determine whether or not to accept a packet or send it back. And there's a rule base that defines that, which a user who has firewall can set through 3 options: allow, block, or prompt. Allow means that you let anything to go in the firewall. Any packets block means it's set to where certain packets will be blocked. And prompt means every time a packet is sent through the network, it'll ask the user whether or not, do I want to accept this packet or do I want to kill this packet? If you kill it, it'll just stop right there at the firewall. And also, another form is antivirus software, which is actually our security application software. Antivirus software scans files, email attachments, and hard drives, as well as your USB flash drive for any viruses or any different forms of malicious software. It can determine what action to take whenever a computer gets hit by a worm, virus, or Trojan, or other methods of attacks. And the one thing about your firewall is you've got to keep these things updated. Because sometimes the attackers will come out with new viruses. So if you do not have it updated, the antivirus software may not be able to obtain the files needed to extract the virus if it gets hit. And also anti-spyware and also anti-spam software should also be implemented, because anti-spyware will prevent the computer from being infected with spyware. Spyware is identified as software that invades privacy of a computer user. It can monitor things like your browsing, like Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, or your bank transactions if you do online bill pay, just to make sure if you do those things that you have the anti-spyware, so no other attacker can see what you're doing.
Like Mac, Apples.
Yeah. Let's now move into these damages that are caused by attacks. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, in 2006, $3 million worth of damage was caused to computer systems, $10 million from individual attacks, and $1.5 million from compromised passwords. And the one thing is that if you have a password, please make sure that you set strong enough, like use a mixture of letters and numbers, not just like a common name, or leave it written down. If you write it down somewhere, someone else can pick it up and be able to log in with your credentials. So also, one thing you want to do with your passwords is update them frequently to prevent them from being compromised. Let's talk about the stats. These are some of the industries that have been struck with attacks on computer networks. The government was held at 23%, retail at 22%, high tech at 20%, and finance at 16%, while the other was 10% or less. And where do they do it? 78% of computer attacks come from the attacker's home computer. And 17% is from unknown sources, which maybe come from a school library, or maybe somebody's home, or a coffee shop, airport, or wherever the case may be. And 5% of those happens in the victim's office. And these are some of the stats here, the most damage are caused from attacks. The Melissa virus, which dates back to 1999, where a Florida man had this virus that was caused through an email attachment, and as a result, it costed $80 million worth of damage. And enterprises throughout the world were affected by the Melissa virus, and the man who wrote the virus got 20 months in prison for his actions.
Wow.
In 2000, the love bug caused $8.7 billion worth of damage, and the FBI reported $10 million worth of damage from theft of data from 494 people. And now in conclusion, you have heard the ways the attackers launched the channels for attacks, and we have ways that we can counter their attacks, and a network attack can be costly. So make sure that if you're designing a network for your home, or if you're on a computer, make sure you want to have your levels of security in place so you do not get vulnerable from a virus or a worm or attacker.
Thank you.
And using our website
Wow.
in the time.